There's a few times in here that I didn't capitalize the beginning of the sentence, and I meant to, and I didn't, and I should have. So, this gal crapped out, if you're legal, you have nothing to worry about. Not a good person. Not a good person, and she's clearly not bright. What I left on here, I said, recommend you spell words correctly and set an example for others. Let me click this so we can do what we got to do, and at least I can leave more on, Zionist TikTok now, in terms of characters, even though most people don't have any character. As it reads, no one is quote unquote illegal. In fact, the last thing you should do is reinforce this jargon, because it reinforces a phony jurisdiction in place to subjugate the masses. By repeating such a thing, you quite literally echo the very thing that is standing in the way of human rights. I'm going to read this to you again. No one is quote unquote illegal. In fact, the last thing you should do is reinforce this jargon, because it reinforces a phony jurisdiction in place to subjugate the masses. By repeating such a thing, you quite literally echo the very thing that is standing in the way of human rights. And you have to be a bag of shit to not want good things for other people, because by extension, that means that you don't want good things for yourself. It's a symbiotic system. The only reason is this where we're at? Yes. The only reason the homeless, and for the most part people from Mexico, have been branded with such a label is because they don't pay unconstitutional taxes. You see, citizens became debt slaves in 1913, despite the fact you can't Google this. But if you think for yourself, this is when the big push took place. This is when the Federal Reserve was established under the pretense of being both voluntary and temporary. Is it voluntary and temporary? It's sure shit not temporary. Is it voluntary? Yes, it is. And actually recently, there was a court case. Now I can't think of what it was, but you could probably find the clip, unless it's going to be scrubbed from the DARPA internet, where the people pulling our strings, one of them asks the other one, is paying taxes, voluntary? And the other guy says, yeah, it is. It is. It always has been. The fact that most people support the wrong things, that's why unconstitutional taxation still exists. Not unlike what this gal is shopping around. And that should terrify you. A little bit more in here. I know superficial internet babies have no attention span, and this is over a minute, so the algorithm won't promote this video because it's not 60 seconds long. By the way, that's divisive. That's also patently fascist censorship. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech. It's the opposite of freedom of speech. And that should bother you. As it reads, you see, citizens became debt slaves in 1913, and a big push took place in 2023, specifically in July 1st and on July 24th. On July 1st, that's when FedNow was rolled out to the banks. It was dressed up as being something they could opt into. It was, again, voluntary, even though if you look up what FedNow is, it would not benefit the banks. Most of the banks bought into this. That should really worry you. In the same month, on the 24th, this is when WorldCoin began digitally testing, and with a digital incentive, and people bought into it. No one would support AI. No one would support digital currency. These things are not in place to benefit you and I. These things are in place to pave the way for social credit, slavery, and quite literally putting a chip in your hand and or your forehead. I shit you not. It's down the line, and these are the incremental steps towards quite literally subjugating the masses. Obedient slaves. No one who is a good person would support such things. No one who is in fact intelligent would support such things. But what do I know? So, and by the way, when I said 1913, Federal Reserve established under the pretense of being voluntary and, temporary, all that other stuff, we don't have a gold standard, we don't have a silver standard. I left that out, but a lot of people probably wouldn't look into this and or think about it. There is no standard. You and I are the fucking value. That's why it's a debt-based system. That's why your straw man, technically your social security number, is traded on the stock exchange. There's a trust in your name. You don't have access to it. You're never told about it. And you can't access it. because this is quite literally the Commonwealth's debt, which people consider currency. It's bullshit. It's not how things should be. It's not how free people would, live their lives. So, social credit slavery, but, what's it say? What I just said is relevant, but most people are unwilling and or incapable of connecting the dots because they're reacting instead of thinking. And whoever this is, she's a horrible person. Through and through. Stands to reason, but what do I know? I left one more thing in here. Said, this isn't how things should be, but it's how things are. Understand that ICE would not exist if the moral majority were smart and informed. And of course, if I could read my own fucking words. Thanks for hanging out. What the fuck do I know? This post is being circulated on TikTok in particular because it doesn't teach you anything. It is in place for you to react to. That's it. Today, when I was riding a bus, yes, the loser cruiser, I'm a classy guy, I saw a number of people, had put, signs in their windows. Not in like Black Lives Matter, even though all lives matter and people are offended by that, but we should be concerned about that because one thing is polarizing, the other one's not. In this case, there was lots of, fuck ICE. This, that, and the other thing. There's a shop that I go into, and it says on the door, ICE is not welcome, we won't serve you. And I like that. I like the shop won't serve people. People just putting up little signs, and kind of cuts both ways too, but at least they're actually doing something in terms of this business not supporting people who need to eat and drink, who are horrible fucking people that work for this garbage. But the signs in the windows that I saw, people's houses, residences, it does nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing. We have to band together, organize, execute a thoughtful plan to see that this stuff ceases to exist, that there is no longer ICE. Because these are the early steps. This is the incremental steps towards the Gestapo, what you would think of as the District of Columbia or the American Gestapo. J.D. Vance allegedly left a quote online having to do with that. Here, give me a second. It's probably flagged in here if I can do it. I also wanted to see, oh yeah, I got 0 views on that one and 1 view on that one. Kick ass! Where are we at? This post. As it reads, J.D. Vance, who's, a piece of shit, obviously, but Trump is a steward of the District of Columbia, a low-level face man at best. Pointless. But most people worry about that shit. Most people wax poetic about that shit. J.D. Vance doesn't matter either, but it's a consent-based system, which is why shit like this is spoon-fed to you. That's if this is true. I have not verified this quote. As it reads, J.D. Vance just said ICE is to go door to door, quote unquote, door to door, to check documentation and decide who to deport. This should extremely alarm anyone with historical literacy. And naturally, you can't use the other key words, which would be useful in terms of a tool in case people don't know what this kid's talking about. In case you were born yesterday and you're a superficial twat, you might want to hear about Nazi Germany, because maybe you haven't got that far in school. And or you weren't paying attention, or you ditched, or something along those lines. And or do they teach that in school anymore? I mean, you can't talk about it on the internet in most cases. They might not teach that in school anymore. I don't know. This post in question was also circulated on TikTok, unlike what I left on there tonight, which you can use as a tool to pull your head out of your ass and look around and help others to do the same. If you look up at the search bar, it says left or right. When you walk, do you choose one foot? It's an appropriate analogy. Do you choose only 1 foot to get around? I understand if you're an amputee, that's one thing. If you're injured right now, sure. But in a natural state, do you choose 1 foot to get around, motherfucker? This is also a rhetorical question, technically speaking, because you got to be an absolute fucking fool to buy into this type of shit. Polarization, Hegelian dialectic, blue versus red. It's quite literally fascism in practice. I'll repeat that. It's fascism in practice. It's the epitome of fascism in practice. And most people support it. That's also why, just to connect the dots, you wouldn't wax poetic about Trump. Yeah, that stuff's going to piss you off and you're going to want to react? Sure. But you wouldn't reinforce that bullshit because it's a phony jurisdiction in place to subjugate the masses. Instead, you would urge people to use their fucking brain. Because what these people want is for you to react and to march in lockstep with your horse blinders on with all of the other idiots and do exactly what they want. And that's what people are doing. And those are the videos that you get to see on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, etc., etc., etc. Because the people who are pulling our strings, what most people dress up as the 1%, they control the algorithm. They trained us to use cellular devices. They gave us access to their DARPA internet. They also trained us to profile ourselves on free social media so that they wouldn't have to. We've been trained to carry around a surveillance tool that quite literally tracks everywhere we go, listens to us at all times. You and I are easy to train. You and I are gullible, which is why we're in this boat, because complacency got us this far. If you saw this video, I recommend you at least tell people about these things, look into these things, use what I said. Try. I mean, fucking try. For the love of fucking Christ. Fucking try to do the right thing. Because most people aren't. And if you do what I'm doing, you will also be censored. People will assume that you're, this, that, and the other thing. They're going to tell you, are you unwell? You need therapy and all this other garbage, typically speaking. I hear this a lot from superficial internet babies who are raised based on principles of the Rockefeller Trust funded bullshit, propaganda. Big pharma, propaganda. You don't need a therapist. You don't need petroleum-based pills. You don't need any of that garbage. What you need to do is have a healthy, balanced diet and to use your brain in tandem with your heart. Bear in mind, I'm using the DARPA internet. This is Google, a tool of propaganda. And this is our source of information. It wouldn't be too hard for the masses to be manipulated with such a thing. And I mean, it is currently happening, but most people can't see the forest for the trees. Just the same, this is what I asked. Let's see. Did J.D. Vance go on record to refer to door-to-door checks for immigration? I didn't punch in all the other things. Keep in mind, you should do that if you're invested, which means you're involved, which means you're double-checking these things. I'm going to do this after the fact, but this is all I'm going to spoon feed you, in other words. And most people won't do that because they're the problem. As it reads, yes, in early 2026, keep in mind, New Year's isn't until March 21st, but people are stupid and we've been misled. Yes, in early 2026, Vice President J.D. Vance stated in a press conference that immigration agents would be conducting door-to-door checks to find undocumented immigrants, a tactic reportedly being used in intensified crackdowns, though its actual execution faced questions and legal challenges, according to reporting from NPR and New Hampshire Public Radio. I mean, this is fascism at its fucking finest, door-to-door checks. I mean, this shit would not exist and should not exist if you and I were surrounded by smart people. And I say that, but I'm urging you, in case you're exceptionally dumb, to rise to the occasion and, craft things, to, chip away at the bullshit that's held you back all this time, because you can change things. You don't have to be a bag of meat your entire life. And that's a horrible way to put it, but you could. And you might assume a bunch of things about me. That's fine, too. That's fine. Feel free. Have a fucking heyday. What was the other bit I was going to rattle off? I left another video. I mean, people don't watch what I leave online, typically speaking, anyway. They're not showing it. It's not going to be in your feed. But I was talking to a fellow that works at one of the stores that I frequent. And he followed up with me. Usually he's pretty quiet about stuff, but he mentioned J.D. Vance, and I haven't done this yet. It's one of my notes. It's part of my stack of things to run through. I'll knock it out real quick and just, the crude notes. Let's see. Does J.D. Vance have ties to Palantir? Okay, and this is roughly what he was telling me about how he was groomed by. There you go. So what he told me checks out, at least at a blush. That should also concern you, because AI would not exist if you and I were surrounded by smart people, just like ICE wouldn't exist if you and I were surrounded by smart people. This is the groundwork for social credit slavery. This is the groundwork for smart cities. This is the groundwork for no rights whatsoever. No freedom of speech. No expression of thought. We're working towards book burning, just to be clear. That's what we're working towards. And most people are paving the way for this shit. Because when our masters say jump, they say how high. When our masters say put on a mask, put on a facial diaper. The children out there, what do? How many facial diapers do you want me to put on my face? It's gonna keep me safe.